After finishing their grocery shopping, Jungkook and Yin returned to their warm and cozy apartment. Shopping bags filled with fresh vegetables, meat, and spices were now neatly placed on the kitchen counter. Together, they began putting away the ingredients, some into the refrigerator, others into the storage racks. Yet from earlier, Yin couldn't stop smiling to herself. Her face lit up, as if she were replaying something sweet in her mind. Every now and then, she blushed, shaking her head gently while holding a vegetable or flipping over a package of food. Jungkook, who was arranging spice jars on the shelf, stole glances at his wife from the corner of his eye. He watched her curious behavior in silence, smiling a little without realizing it, but eventually, curiosity got the better of him. "Why are you smiling like that?" Jungkook asked, suppressing a chuckle, though he already had a good guess. Yin glanced at him and giggled. "Nothing." Jungkook walked over, gently touched Yin's back, and leaned slightly toward her. "Come on, tell me. Don't tell me you're still thinking about what Minja said earlier?" Yin nodded softly. "It's just strange. I used to think you only saw me as a little kid, but it turns out you were secretly waiting for me to grow up," she replied with a laugh. Jungkook chuckled and gently stroked her head. "If I'd told you back then, you might have felt uncomfortable." Yin frowned slightly. "Why would I be uncomfortable?" "Well, you saw me as just your neighbor, or a big brother, or a senior, or whatever. You might have thought I was too old for you." "I didn't think that at all." Yin turned to face him, her smile wide. Apparently, her husband had truly been oblivious all this time. "My God, so you really didn't know I've liked you for a long time?" She crossed her arms. "I've liked you for years, you know, but I thought you only saw me as the cute little neighbor. You always treated me like a little sister or even like a kid, always patting my head and everything. And you never gave me a single sign that you felt the same." Jungkook was stunned, clearly caught off guard. "I waited for you, Jungkook, but I didn't dare hope too much. You always kept your distance, only got close to tutor me in accounting." Jungkook took a deep breath. "Back then, I was afraid I'd mess with your focus, or that I'd just become a distraction. I thought you needed space to grow." Yin blinked, her voice softening. "You weren't a distraction. You actually made me more motivated to study." Jungkook stayed quiet for a moment before pulling her into a brief hug. "So I was an idiot, waiting too long." Yin shook her head, still smiling. "No, you were just too patient, and I'm glad, because it turns out, you were watching me all along." Jungkook looked into Yin's eyes, then kissed her forehead softly. "I was watching you from afar every day, and now you're here. Mine. Feels like a dream." The room fell into a quiet peace. Outside, the afternoon light was fading, but inside their little apartment, the warmth never left. "Well then, let's cook together. I'm in such a good mood today," Yin said excitedly. Jungkook laughed, but not the happy kind. "I don't think you should cook. Let me handle it. I've always been the better cook." Yin immediately pouted. "So you're saying I'm useless in the kitchen?" Jungkook chuckled. "You don't have to be great in the kitchen, as long as you're great at pleasing me in bed." Yin pinched his waist playfully. "Ugh, you pervy husband." Jungkook snickered. "All husbands are pervs, just some hide it better. If we weren't, we wouldn't be able to make babies." At that, Yin's cheeks turned red. "But I still want to learn how to cook. I want to be able to help you," she mumbled with a pout. Jungkook gently stroked her head. "You don't have to help me, I'm used to cooking alone." But seeing his wife still pouting, he smiled widely and finally handed her an apron. "All right then, my little chef. Today, you're the boss." Yin grinned, her mood lifting instantly. And so, they began their kitchen adventure. Or rather, Jungkook started cooking while Yin helped, just a little. 1 week later, that night felt peaceful. Jungkook and Yin were relaxing on their bed. The dim bedroom lights and the cool night air created a cozy atmosphere. Jungkook was leaning back, reading an article on his phone, while Yin was watching a trending cooking video on her tablet. Suddenly, the sound of a notification pinged from Jungkook's phone. He glanced at it briefly, then opened the message. It was a notification from his university alumni group. "Let's meet up tomorrow. A small reunion. 11 a.m. at Bamboo Grove Restaurant. No dress code. Feel free to bring your partner." Jungkook smiled and showed the screen to Yin. "Look, there's a college reunion tomorrow. They're planning to gather." Yin glanced at his phone and nodded. "You should go. Sounds fun. It's been a while since you saw them, right?" But Jungkook shook his head slightly. "If you're not coming, I don't feel like going either." Yin frowned. "Why not? They're your friends. I might feel awkward if I go." "That's exactly why I want you to come. You're my wife now. Besides, Minju and Hannah will be there too. At least you'll know someone." Yin sighed and put down her tablet. Still, I don't know the others. I'm afraid I'll just sit quietly while everyone talks about college memories and all those past moments I don't understand. Jungkook chuckled and turned to face her. If they start talking about the past, I'll hold your hand under the table. Just so you know, my future is you. Yin gave him a playful look. Throwing cheesy lines in the middle of the night, huh? I mean it, Jungkook replied with a soft smile. I just want you there. I'm proud that you're my wife. I want to introduce you to them, not just as Jungkook's wife, but as the woman I've been waiting for my whole life. Yin went quiet for a few seconds. Her cheeks turned red, but a small smile spread across her face. All right, I'll come, she finally said. Jungkook immediately hugged her and kissed her forehead. Now I'm excited to go. Yin just laughed and playfully pinched his arm. The next day, the restaurant buzzed with warmth and laughter. Tables were neatly arranged, and most were already filled with familiar faces from Jungkook's college days. The air was filled with cheerful greetings, nostalgic conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter. The door to the restaurant opened, and instantly, several heads turned toward it. Jungkook walked in, holding Yin's hand. His expression remained calm, and his smile hadn't left since they were in the parking lot. But all eyes, especially from the women, immediately locked on the couple. After all, Jungkook had once been the campus heartthrob. Handsome, smart, and active in various student activities, it was no surprise he was the center of attention, even after all these years. And now, he walked in with his wife, a sight that naturally caught everyone's attention. Jungkook waved casually toward one of the large tables near the window. Minju, Hannah, he called with a smile, followed by Yoonwoo. Long time no see. Bro, Yoonwoo stood up and gave him a quick hug. You finally showed up. Hi Yin, he added, glancing at her. He already knew Yin from attending their wedding. So glad we could finally meet again, Yin replied politely with a smile, though inside she still felt a little out of place among Jungkook's friends. One by one, Yin greeted Hannah and Minju, who welcomed her warmly. But when it came to Mona, the atmosphere subtly shifted. Hi, Yin greeted politely. Mona glanced at her briefly, then gave a curt nod. Hi, she replied flatly without a smile. Awkward. Yin glanced at Jungkook, but he seemed too focused, laughing with Minju, Hannah, and Yoonwoo over some silly college memories. So, Yin held herself back and chose not to dwell on Mona's coldness. She simply sat quietly beside Jungkook, occasionally smiling whenever the group laughed, though her mind kept circling back to Mona's icy demeanor. Why does she seem to dislike me? She wondered silently. But seeing her husband enjoying himself with his friends, Yin decided to brush it off. She picked up her glass of orange juice and took a slow sip, calming herself down. I'm not here to stir up drama. Just enjoy the moment, Yin, she reminded herself quietly. Without realizing it, the reunion was nearly over. Before heading home, Yin made a quick stop at the restroom to pee and touch up her makeup. But suddenly, Mona walked in, and their eyes met briefly in the mirror's reflection. Yin gave her a polite nod, but Mona didn't return it with a smile. Mona slowly washed her hands, then looked at Yin with an unreadable expression. Her voice was calm, yet carried a cutting edge. So, you're Jungkook's wife now? Yin turned slightly. Yes. Why? Mona gave a crooked, faint smile. It's just strange. I always thought he'd never marry anyone, especially you. Yin frowned. What do you mean? Mona leaned against the sink, staring at Yin through the mirror. Back in college, he was closest to me. Everyone knew that. Whenever I had a problem, he was always the first to show up. Even when I had an accident on campus, he was the one who gave his blood to me, without a second thought. You can ask the others if you don't believe it. Yin stayed quiet for a moment, processing what she'd just heard. Jungkook is too kind. Sometimes I thought he couldn't say no to me. He always said yes, always showed up. Mona continued, her voice softer now. Yin let out a breath. I don't know what kind of relationship you two had, but he told me himself that he never liked any girl back in college. Mona's brows furrowed. And you believed that? He told you he never had feelings for anyone but you, and you just believed it. Yin still said nothing. Her eyes met Mona's in the mirror, calm but sharp. Mona shrugged and gave a short laugh. Funny, turns out Jungkook's good at hiding things. Smart not just in class, but in making you trust him completely. Yin took a slow breath before replying, her voice steady. Like I said, I don't know everything, and I don't need to know all of his past. But if you were that close to him, why didn't you ever tell him how you felt? Or, did you? And he turned you down? Mona didn't answer. Yin looked at her deeply. You may be part of Jungkook's past, but today, I'm the one he holds. And if he says he loves me, I believe him, because he's not the kind of man who speaks carelessly when it comes to the heart. Mona stared back, her expression tightening. I'm just trying to give you some advice. You're still young, so don't trust too easily. With that, Mona turned and walked out, not waiting for a reply. Yin stared at her reflection in the mirror, trying to calm her pounding heart. She took a deep breath, then walked out of the restroom with her head held high. The bedroom light was dim. The night felt quiet, with only the soft hum of the AC filling the silence. Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed, drying his hair with a small towel. Meanwhile, Yin sat leaning on the opposite side of the bed, silent, her gaze fixed blankly on the wall. Jungkook glanced at her slowly, his heart stirred again. Ever since they got home from the reunion earlier that day, Yin had gone quiet. It wasn't the first time he had seen her like this, and he knew something was wrong. Yin, he called gently. What's wrong? You've been quiet. Yin let out a breath before finally looking at him. I saw Mona in the restroom earlier. Jungkook immediately straightened up, and she told me a lot. Yin kept her voice steady. She said you used to be really close with her, that you always helped her, even said you once gave her blood after her accident, and that you could never say no to her. Jungkook looked surprised, his eyes widening slightly. She said that? Yin only nodded. So how close were you really? With her? Jungkook. There was a moment of silence. Jungkook stared at Yin, trying to understand her feelings before answering. I didn't think she'd say something like that to you, he finally said, his voice honest. But if you're asking how close, we were just classmates. Yes, I helped her, but I helped others too. I never saw Mona as more than that. To me, she was just like Hannah, no different. And the blood thing? Yin asked again, her tone sharper now. Jungkook nodded slowly. Yeah, I did donate blood for her. She had an accident, and Hannah and Minja brought her to the hospital. A few hours later, Yoonwoo and I arrived. Turns out she needed type of blood. Hannah, Minju, and Yoonwoo all have type B. Her parents couldn't donate due to health history, and there was no blood available. I was the only match, so I donated. That's it. It was out of humanity, not feelings. Yin stayed quiet, her expression still unmoved. Jungkook continued, and the part about me never saying no, that's a lie. I actually turned her down, Yin. A few days before graduation, she confessed her feelings to me, and I rejected her. Yin turned quickly. Why didn't you ever tell me that? Jungkook shrugged. Because I didn't think it mattered. It was the past. I didn't even expect her to show up at the reunion. Last I heard, she went overseas for grad school. I thought she'd moved on, started a new life, and there's no point digging up what's already done. Besides, she wasn't the only girl who confessed to me. A lot of girls did, and I turned them all down. So why bring it up? Yin remained silent, her eyes locked on Jungkook's full of questions, but also a trace of guilt. Jungkook moved closer, then took her hand in his. Yin, I know what Mona said upset you, but please, you have to trust me. I'm your husband, and you're the only woman I've ever waited for years. I've never looked at another woman the way I look at you. Yin looked down, eyes starting to glisten. Jungkook pulled her into his arms. I'm just scared, Jungkook. Scared that there's a past I don't know, one that could suddenly come and ruin everything, Yin whispered. If anything's going to ruin us, Jungkook whispered back, it's not the past, it's losing our trust. And I won't let that happen, I promise. Yin hugged him tighter, letting her tears fall in silence. But in that moment, she realized she needed to trust Jungkook more. Jungkook held her tighter in his arms, a small fire sparking in his chest, not toward Yin, but toward the person who dared to treat his wife like that. Without a word, he released the hug, stood up from the bed, and reached for his phone on the nightstand. His face turned serious and stern, a look rarely seen around Yin. Jungkook, what are you doing? Yin asked quickly, watching her husband in confusion. I'm going to call Mona, Jungkook replied without hesitation. I can't just sit back knowing she treated you like that. She needs to know her limits. She needs to understand that you're not someone she can mess with. But before Jungkook could tap on Mona's contact, Yin quickly stood up and grabbed his arm. Don't, Jungkook. Jungkook turned to her. Why not? Because if you contact her now, she'll know I talked about her at home, Yin said, looking into his eyes. She'll know she managed to shake me, and I don't want that. I don't want her to feel like she won. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his fingers clenching around the phone. But Yin, please, for me, Yin pleaded softly. If you call her, it'll show that you care about what she said. I don't want her to feel important, especially after all the nonsense she said. So just let it go this time. Besides, my heart is calm now. I trust you. Jungkook stared at her for a few seconds, then finally exhaled deeply. He set the phone back on the nightstand and took Yin's hand again. Okay, I won't call her, Jungkook said gently. But you have to promise me one thing. Yin nodded slowly. What? Don't ever doubt my love again. I married you because I chose to, not because I was forced to, or because of anyone else. The only one that matters now is you. Yin smiled softly, her eyes still wet, but her sadness fading. I promise, she whispered. Jungkook pulled her back into his arms, pressing a gentle kiss on the top of her head. 3 days later, the campus hallway buzzed with its usual crowd of students passing by, laughter and light chatter filling the air. But Yin's brows furrowed as she spotted a familiar figure walking alongside Hannah in the distance. There, walking casually and laughing softly, was Mona. As they drew nearer, Mona's presence on the campus became undeniably real. Yin steadied herself and gave a polite smile, slightly nodding her head out of courtesy. Good morning, Professor Hannah. Hannah returned the greeting warmly. Good morning to you too, Yin. But unlike Hannah, Mona offered only a faint smile. No greeting, just a gaze that felt loaded with meaning Yin couldn't quite grasp. Then, right before they passed her, Mona spoke in a cheerful voice that dripped with sweet venom. Well, look at us meeting again. Starting this week, I'm officially teaching here as a new lecturer. It's nice to see you again, Yin. Her words sent Yin's heartbeat racing. Still, she forced a small smile, doing her best to stay composed. Oh, welcome, she replied curtly. With that, Hannah and Mona walked past, leaving Yin frozen in place, her eyes locked on their backs with a hard-to-read expression. Once they disappeared around the corner, she clenched her jaw tightly. No way, she's really here? A lecturer? At this campus of all places? And with Hannah? Don't tell me this was planned, she muttered inwardly. Closing her eyes for a moment, she took a deep breath. When she opened them again, her gaze was sharper, filled with fire. If she thinks she can mess with my marriage, she's dead wrong. With her head held high and her steps firm, Yin walked into the classroom. No matter how strong the woman trying to interfere might be, Yin was ready to fight for the marriage they had built together.